Hey, what's up, everybody? Here to do the Wednesday Q&A. As usual, I have two. Well, I usually start it with one. I've got two questions today. I'm going to start with, when I put the phone here, it looks like I have like a sunroof in the van or something. That's pretty cool. It's really just a windshield. I'm going to start off with two questions that were asked in some of the Facebook groups. And I'll answer those. And if anybody has questions after I finish answering these, just comment them, or just go ahead and comment them whenever, and I'll answer those. And if you have one later, you watch this later, I will answer it then. All right, so the first question I had from Christy was, what's a healthy what's a healthy rate of fat loss weekly? So how many pounds is it? How many pounds could be expected to be lost weekly if you are staying in a calorie deficit and you are staying active? That was her question. So first, before I say that, I'll define each of those by how I'm answering the question. So by a calorie deficit, I would say, a calorie deficit just means that you are consuming fewer calories than you burn each day. There are calculators online and things like that that you can use to find about how many calories you burn each day, so that you can be in a deficit and target below that. My recommendation is to be in a moderate deficit, so 20% fewer calories. So like if I do the calculator and my calories that I burn each day is 2,500 or so, eating about 2,000 to 2,200 calories is a good healthy deficit. 2,000 is a moderate deficit. Dropping down to 1,000 is stupid. It's not good to do that for any kind of extended amount of time. There are some valid strategies to use it for a few days, but not a long time. So I would say use a moderate deficit, not an extremely aggressive one, because there are all kind of reasons that can mess you up. The biggest of which is it's not sustainable long term, and you want to go with things that you're going to be able to sustain, not things that are going to help you for a while and then you go right back to your starting weight or body fat percentage or whatever. So by staying in a calorie deficit, I would define it as a moderate deficit. By staying active, of course, I would prefer strength training because of all the benefits that I've talked about elsewhere that I'm not going to just harp on a million times here, because I know I do that all the time anyway. But for the purposes of this, we'll just say some kind of intentional exercise. You're not living a sedentary lifestyle. You're doing intentional things to burn calories, move more, whatever it is, whether it's cardio, whether it's strength training, whether it's whatever you're doing, you're doing some kind of intentional exercise, because realistically, being in the calorie deficit with the food is what matters the most. So let's say with that defined, being in a moderate deficit and having some intentional activity, I would say on a consistent basis, 1 to 2 pounds a week is a pretty healthy a pretty healthy rate of weight loss, and that's what you could probably expect. Now that might be a little bit higher on the first week or two, because a lot of that is you're dropping water weight and things like that. But after that, I would say that 1 to 2 pounds a week, depending on the person, depending on how aggressive their deficit is and everything like that, that's going to be about what I'd expect, is 1 to 2 pounds a week. The second question I had was, are there any exercises that you could do specifically to target stretch marks and to deal with loose skin after you've lost a lot of weight as a result of giving birth or just losing a lot of weight pretty rapidly? And I'm going to tackle those separately, actually, because they're two different questions. So the first question is that threw me off. The first question is, I'll tackle the loose skin one first. So if you have a lot of loose skin, usually that happens as a result of you've lost weight pretty quickly, and there is definitely something you can be done that's to be done about that with exercises, and that's building some muscle. So I'll explain. Think about what happens. The reason you wind up with loose skin is because you have fat cells that have grown, and you have skin cells that have been forced to expand as a result of that, so they've grown as well. But when you lose a lot of the fat cells, the skin cells don't always shrink back down at the same rate at which the fat cells do. So as a result, you've lost a lot of fat, but you have some loose skin. genetics play a lot into this, depending on the person. Some people will barely experience this at all. Some people experience it dramatically. Most are somewhere in the middle. But if this is the case, and usually it's like with, after you've had a baby, after you've had maybe you've had the surgery to it's anything like this, or you've just lost a lot of weight really quickly, this kind of thing can result. And what you can do, so now basically what's happened is you just have skin there that's empty. It doesn't have anything in there. So what you can do is you can build some muscle to kind of fill that space. And I know that obviously, like, mostly it's women asking this question. There are some men that do ask it, but usually it's women because of the giving birth thing. But I would say that, I know when I say that, the first thing that pops in their mind is, I don't want to be bulky. But like, usually when you build some muscle, as a woman, you don't get bulky. There are a few women who experience that, and they're usually like the super, super petite, short type of person. But usually, like, you're not going to get very bulky. You're just going to get lean. You're going to get, like, stronger, more defined, things like that. But you're not going to get, like, you're not just going to look huge, So get that out of your head when I say build some muscle. So in terms of exercises, I would say that you should focus on the exercises that are going to give you the most benefit. Going to work the largest muscle groups. So that would be like the squat, the deadlift, the bench press, the overhead press, those kind of workouts. You just want to get progressively stronger on those so that you can build a basis of strength and muscle that will fill in some of the loose skin. So that's the best answer to that. And then you can, depending on where it is, you can do some other things to kind of like target and do a little bit of accessory, additional movements, things like that to help fill in that muscle a little bit faster. So that's how I'd answer that one. For the stretch marks, it's completely different. There aren't really any exercises that you could do per se to really help with that. As a matter of fact, I mean, like, between diet and exercise, really the only thing you can do, to my knowledge and that I've ever read about or seen or whatever, is to increase your water supply and to clean up your diet as much as you can and eat mostly, whole nutritious foods, because that's just going to improve overall skin quality and help with stretch marks. It definitely isn't going to hurt. But there are products that you can use and things like that. And I don't mean like the scammy, like, $50 product for some cream or whatever. I mean, like, there's some like cocoa butter. There's like a silicone gel. There are products you can use. And what I recommend is choosing something like that and sticking with it for a good while, like a few months, doing it consistently, and see what it does. And there are more extreme measures you can take, like they have like a laser therapy, things like that, that I've heard of that you can use for it. But that would be like a last resort. But in terms of exercises, that not really. And because the reason you see stretch marks is you have like your top layer of skin is called your epidermis. You have another one underneath that called the dermis, and the dermis can expand and, it basically can like tear some when the rapid weight gain happens, such as with the baby, and or your skin is stretched out, and so that dermis cracks a little, and you can see some of the lower levels of skin through the top two layers of skin. So when that happens, like, that's where the stretch marks come from. And then when that kind of heals, it leaves like that kind of like white, silvery almost type of stretch mark in the form of a scar. And exercise is, building muscle even is not going to help that. You can lose all of the excess skin, and you can still have the scarring and the stretch marks because of that. So there are products. My answer is rarely like products, but in this case, that's what you've got to do to work to get rid of them. And the genetics, it just all depends really on like how, again, some people have stretch marks way worse than others. So. By the way, neither of these questions apply only to women. There are definitely some men who deal with this. So, I'm just saying that most of the people I've received that question from have been women, and it's usually connected to pregnancy. So if anybody has any other questions, I will be happy to answer them. And if you don't have one right now, then feel free to comment later, and I will get back to it in a bit and answer it. Anybody got anything? Counting down 3, 2, 1. Happy Wednesday.